All right, so this is video First Amendment, and this is going to have quite the controversial business in it. So just know that what I'm basing things off of is what the law is, and that's it. So you can have your own opinions about this, but what I'm saying specifically, you'll know what I mean in a minute. I'm just giving a kind of disclaimer ahead of time so that nobody thinks I support one side or the other. I am very, very serious about things, especially legal things written as they are. So, and a lot of people don't know what's allowed, what's not allowed. They get confused. And again, you can have your opinion on the matter, and that's different from what it actually is. You might hear things about other people's opinions, about certain individuals in the world. And again, you can have a different opinion. Because this first one is definitely more opinion. It brings up the law, but nobody freak out. At least not too bad. All right. So, first video. The American flag is meant to represent our collective duty, rights, freedom, love.
So my next guest thinks that it's disturbing to see the U.S. flag desecrated, but he disagrees with the President-elect's suggestion. Joining me now, Jonathan Turley, professor at the George Washington University Law School. Professor, good to see you. I mean, none of us like to see the flag burn. I mean, apparently some people do, but I think most reasonable people don't like to see that. But yet banning it says something else about us that would be far more disturbing.
Well, it's a curious notion, isn't it? The flag represents our collective rights.
Boom. First answer. All right. Keep the chat clear. I don't need to be saying this stuff repeatedly. All right. So it's meant to represent our collective rights. And what we're talking about here is the stuff we've been talking about. So, natural rights, anything in the Constitution, that's what we're talking about. All right. How many times has the First Amendment been amended? Three. The chat thinks three. You think it's three, really? Wouldn't it be one? Yes. All right. So we got some speculation going on.
And you hardly honor it by abridging those rights, which is what is being suggested. The First Amendment has never been amended. It has
never been amended. It was the very first one. So what they mean is, was it amended after it was added? So in a sense, you're right. What it is really is, in a sense, the Constitution was amended, in a sense. Amended is like a change, like an added change. So if you add, so nobody's gone back and changed the First Amendment since it was created, is the point here. So 0. About how many flag burnings are there per year? And the argument here is, the argument was some people, and specific president-elect, kind of in response to those people, was talking about flag burning should be like illegal, basically. So that was the beginning of that. And so they're arguing now why, in a sense, it shouldn't be illegal. All right, so we've got some more speculation. All right. You'll find out in a minute why they burn it, but I can elaborate in a minute.
It's never been reduced. It has served us so well since the founding of this republic. In the suggestion that we should now amend the First Amendment because of what on average is about 5 to 7 flag burnings a year.
And I think these are public kind of flag burnings, not, oh, we're in the backyard. So 5 to 7 is the answer. Also, so there's really 2 reasons to burn the flag. One is these people are doing it in protest. And what it's basically saying is if you burn it, the idea is it's a political statement about people believing that their rights have been either violated, trampled on, something like that. It obviously, very specifically, they know that it is bothersome to people. The other reason is because when you retire a flag, so once it's all ripped up and it just is not a good representation, essentially, of the country anymore, there you want to essentially burn that flag out of respect. So it's, I had a video, it was like 10 things you didn't know about the American flag, and they had a Boy Scout or Eagle Scout, I can't remember which one, but he went through the whole process of how to respectfully do it. So all right, so 5 to 7. Some of the questions coming up, you'll get answers to that in the next as it comes up. All right. True or false, just like students have the right to burn a flag in protest, so do people have the right to explain to those students what the flag means. True or false?
I think it's rather reckless. I mean, the question is, do you want the government in the business of criminalizing speech? Those people that want to allow Congress to do it have got to think about the implications of that. Many of the Trump supporters were very concerned about a Clinton administration. You shouldn't repeat the mistakes of the Democrats. You shouldn't, because you have power, just hand more power to this government like this is the last president you're ever going to see.
Didn't we just get through an election where Donald Trump was placed in office in part because he said we need to toughen up as a society, we've become too politically correct, you should be allowed to offend, that's part of being an American. I mean, this is part of that. It doesn't just apply to liberals or conservatives, it applies to everybody.
Right, and you saw the First Amendment in your clips. Hundreds of people came out with flags explaining to these students what they really need. What that veteran said was very moving when he said they have a right to pull down the flag, and I have a right to tell them why that's wrong and why that hurts. That's free speech. That's much more powerful than dragging people away and arresting them for burning a flag.
Professor, great to see you.
All right, so this is true. Now, yeah. What's interesting here actually is this is, so I do believe Megyn Kelly, and she's a conservative for sure. So she probably got a lot of flack for this. There's kind of 2 ways to be conservative in a sense. One is, it's almost like there's 2 branches. One conservative is very like constitutional, very by the book, exactly what the Constitution says. And then you've also got this other type, which is more, I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to put it in a nice way, so I'm not going to. All right. I will say this, most of the time people get very caught up when this flag burning happens, and this is when they're bringing up the soldiers, that the people who are burning the flag don't support the troops or soldiers. And when I look at that argument, it becomes very important to actually listen to what any protester is actually trying to say with what they're doing. So the intention matters. So if you're, for example, burning it because you hate the troops and the soldiers, then that would be accurate in the sense of being upset because you're a soldier, or because you know soldiers, or because you support the troops extra. But if they're burning it for specifically for like rights, and that people believe other people's rights have been stepped on and whatnot, it's not the same. So you can have somebody who essentially burns a flag due to rights but still supports the troops, and it gets a little questionable to me. And this is whether you're conservative, liberal, I don't care, whatever. It's going to be important to see what the intention is before okay, this is what this actually means when the person didn't mean it like that. Not to say that intention isn't going to offend people and isn't going to be taken a different way. I see a lot of like YouTube apology stuff, basically, where they're like, I meant this and this, and they're apologizing, and I'm kind of like, well, in the end, if you meant this and this and this, we're not at 5 yet. If you meant something specifically, then maybe you shouldn't apologize for it. All right? You could apologize for how you said it, I guess, but anyways, let's move on so I'm not spending forever on this, because you guys will like go crazy on me. All right. So now question 5, what you've been waiting for. The primary reason for freedom of speech was for criticism of the
Hi, I'm Craig, and this is Crash Course Government and Politics, and today we're talking about free speech. Finally, today we can let loose and establish the kinds of things we can say to criticize our government, like the crazy idea that money and speech are the same thing. Not so fast, clone. The Supreme Court has ruled that spending money, at least in the political context, is speech. You do have the right to criticize that decision, though, unless your boss or YouTube says that you can.
All right, we're trying to talk about free speech. Shut up. Let's get started and see if we can figure out what the limits of free speech are, assuming that there are some. There aren't. That's a lie. But I'm free to say that. There are two really important things to remember about the First Amendment protection of free speech. The primary reason to have freedom of speech is to allow for public criticism of the stupid government. Stupid government. That's the...
All right. When we look at rights, this is why you need to look at history. How did this happen in the first place? So if you wonder, why can I say this? Why can't I say this? Why do these things exist? It is related to history and what people have seen happens when you do certain things. So in other countries in history, they did not have freedom of speech. People were put in prison, jail, they were beheaded, whatever, because they were criticizing the government. So that's why that exists. All right, so 5 is government. All right, true or false, all speech is protected.
The sort of thing that can land you in jail in countries that don't have strong free speech protections. Or should I say, you would be Putin in jail. Don't put me in jail. Oh, that's right, in the U.S. it doesn't matter. The stories of oversensitive kings and dictators silencing people who question their rule or even make jokes at their expense are too numerous to recount. But for the most part, that kind of thing doesn't happen in the U.S., which is why no one gets arrested for carrying around a giant picture of Obama as Hitler, or former President Bush as a monkey. Well, that stuff's okay as far as the First Amendment is concerned, but that doesn't mean it's respectful or in good taste. The second thing to remember is that the First Amendment protects you from the government doing things that try to deny your speech, but not anyone else. What this means is that...
All right, so this is, well, hang on, let me keep going a little bit.
Right, say whatever you want, wherever you want, to whomever you want, and not suffer any consequences.
All right, and that's going to be important. All right, so this is going to be actually false. Not all speech is, it's basically, it depends. What he's talking about now is you can say what you want, but there might be consequences. Example, if you run around the classroom and you're cussing and throwing chairs and you're like, freedom of speech, I do what I want, I say what I want. That is not going to work out. Not going to work out. All right. So there are consequences to this freedom of speech, all right? Because in a sense, you can say it, but there might be consequences to it. The government can't put you in jail over it, but you could get suspended from school. The most protected type of speech is...
Isn't that right, Stan, you dingus? I'm fired? I was just kidding. If you work for a private company, your boss can certainly fire you for saying mean things about them or revealing company secrets, and you don't have any First Amendment claim against them. Unless, of course, your boss is the government or a branch of the government, in which case you might be able to claim a First Amendment right. See, like most things, it's complicated. Among the speech that is protected, not all of it has the same level of protection under the First Amendment. Now, let's exercise our right to free thought bubble. The speech that gets the strongest protection is political speech. Criticism of...
So the strongest one is political speech. This is also why, well, no, he's going to go more into the whole being employed by the government. Yeah, so political speech is going to be the most protected. And this is normally the thing is, too, political speech is more well thought out than somebody run around screaming different stuff and being ridiculous. So, yeah. All right. True or false? When the speech presents a clear and present danger, the state can then abridge, reduce the extent or quantity that person's can then abridge that person's speech. All right.
But also praise for particular officials, their parties, or their policies, it's usually protected. It's given what is called preferred position, which means that any law or regulation or executive act that limits political speech is almost always struck down by courts. The big case that made pretty much the final decision on political speech was Brandenburg versus Ohio in 1968. In this case, the Ku Klux Klan leader was making a speech that, as you can imagine, was offensive to a lot of people and could have been considered threatening too. The court ruled that because the speech was political, it was protected by the First Amendment, no matter how outrageous it was. The court said the constitutional...
All right, so this is very important, okay? So if this speech would not have put in things like criticizing the government, it was just like, let's say Ku Klux Klan guy just went off about race and was like, we're gonna go to this black person's house and we're gonna set it on fire. Come on, everybody. And everybody went over there and just all of a sudden they're burning a house down. That is not protected. Or even probably standing outside and threatening that person. Not protected. Once you add in things like, okay, the government is doing such and such for such and such, now you're running into a little bit of a line. Now, it's still, if that speech causes people to go out, start burning stuff up, now it's not protected probably anymore. Very iffy. And you could get arrested for vandalism. He's gonna bring it up. You can get arrested for vandalism and trespassing and whatever else. All right. So in a sense, you can make a speech, but you can't go run around and adding in all these other different things. Wait, what was the question again? That's what happens. I go off on a tangent. Okay.
Guarantees of free speech and free press do not permit a state to forbid or prescribe advocacy of the use of force or of law violation, except where such advocacy is directed to inciting or producing imminent action and is likely to produce such action. According to the court, the First Amendment protects speech even if it advocates the use of force or encourages people to violate the law. So you can advocate overthrowing the government and not paying your taxes as much as you want, unless what you say is likely to produce the thing you're advocating.
Alright, so in a sense, you could be like, we should overthrow the government! And, like, you can say that, but once you start doing it, now you might have a problem. Like, if you're going and you're like, we're gonna burn down Capitol Hill, problematic because, you know, burning stuff is kind of, like, against the law. So, that is the problem there.
Overthrowing the government. And it is likely to happen imminently, meaning very soon after you make the statement. This case limited in old...
Alright, hang on. So, where was that? So 8 is going to be true. True or false? Hate speech is not protected.
Older standard regarding free speech that was put forward in the case U.S. versus Schenck in 1917. In that case, Schenck distributed pamphlets urging people to avoid the draft for World War I. This was a violation of the Espionage Act, which made it a crime to obstruct the draft or the war effort. The law was more complicated than that, but that's the basic gist. In his decision on this case, Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote that when that speech presents a clear and present danger, the state can then abridge that person's speech. Memorably, he explained that the First Amendment does not protect a person who shouts fire in a crowded theater. In later cases, Holmes limited this idea largely because it gives the government a lot of leeway to say what kind of speech creates danger, especially during the war, as was the case with Schenck. Thanks, Thought Bubble. Political speech isn't the only type of speech that the courts have addressed. Symbolic speech can also be protected by the First Amendment, and if that symbolic speech has political content, it usually is protected. Symbolic speech includes wearing armbands, carrying signs, or even wearing a jacket with an obscene word directed at the military draft. Symbolic speech also includes burning an American flag, which pretty much is always a political message. Not all symbolic speech is protected, though. For example, if you're a high school student who holds up a banner that reads "Long is for Jesus" at a school-sponsored function, don't expect that the First Amendment will prevent the school, a government agent, from suspending you. And yes, that really happened. Also, this is not symbolic speech. That's violence. Even hate speech is protected, even if it's really hateful, like burning a cross on a person's lawn, although this might be prosecuted as vandalism or trespassing.
Alright, so even hate speech is protected. Oh, wait. So it is false. So hate speech is protected, again, unless you start, if it starts making people break the law, now you're in trouble. So if you're breaking, like if you're setting things on fire, now you're breaking arson laws, all right? You can't go setting things on fire. You can't go on somebody else's land without permission. So, in a sense, you can say stuff off their land, but you do not need to be going onto their property. All right. Pretty much the only speech that is not protected, other than speech that incites immediate violence, is known as...
Universities that try to punish hate speech have seen their discipline code struck down. Commercial speech may not be protected, but if it's a political commercial, it will be. And as we pointed out before, spending money on political campaigns has been determined to be speech that is protected by the First Amendment. Although we shall see donations to political campaigns are still treated differently, at least for now. Pretty much the only kind of speech that's not protected, other than speech that's likely to incite immediate violence, is what's called fighting words. In the actual case...
Alright. Fighting words. People go, them's fighting words. This is actually like, I mean, in a sense, it is still, other than speech that incites immediate violence, this is speech that incites immediate violence. So that is still kind of exactly what that is. All right. The only reason a teacher won a case complaining about how the Board of Education was spending funds was that
case that dealt with fighting words, Chaplinsky versus New Hampshire, the defendant uttered what seemed more like insults than a call to engage in fisticuffs. What'd you call me? Still, the court ruled that some words were so insulting that they were more than likely to result in a fight, so fighting words are not protected speech. One thing to note, though, the fighting words free speech exception is almost never used. So as you can see, the First Amendment pretty much protects you from the government throwing you in jail or otherwise punishing you for what you say in most instances. But it's important to remember that the First Amendment is not unlimited. Most important, it only protects you from government action, not the action of private people, especially your employers. One final example might make this clear. In Pickering versus Board of Education, a public school teacher wrote a letter to the editor of his local paper complaining about the way the school board was spending money on the school. He didn't write it on school time or using school paper or email, especially.
this is also important. If you let's say this teacher, if they would have done it on school time, if they would have done it using anything like school related, now they would have had a problem because that is like a procedural rule.
Since it was 1968 and there was no email. The school board or his principal fired him. He brought the case to the Supreme Court claiming that he was fired for his speech, which was political in nature, criticizing local government, and not for anything related to his job performance. And he won. But the only reason he was able to get his job back is that his employer was the government, so it was the government that punished him for speaking out. For most of us, complaining about our employer's policies may get us fired, and unless we are government employees, we can't.
Alright, so hang on. This is because he was employed by the government. Now, the other thing is, some people, there are definitely policies in place. I could look at policies right now that are in place, and I could probably say that they violate freedom of speech, but I would have to be willing to actually go to the court of law and sue, which is a lot of money, a lot of time, and all that other good stuff. All right. Final question will be, how many eagle punches happened in the video?
Can't claim that it violated our First Amendment rights. The First Amendment, like all of the amendments, is meant to protect us from an overreaching government. There are other types of laws that help us deal with individuals who do things that we think are wrong, but we'll talk about those in another episode. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Third eagle punch in the video. Is that too much? Doesn't matter. I'm free to do it. Crash Course Government and Politics is produced in a...
3. And then we submit it. And then we get a 12 out of 12. All right.